camera before, so we're gonna see how it works. Well, I was just thinking I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. You just start talking. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you were in the Navy, right?
What?
You were in the Navy?
Yeah.
When did you join the Navy?
May the 13th, 1941.
And how did you get into the Navy? Did you have a choice, or did they tell you you were going to be in the Navy?
No, I volunteered.
Mm-hmm. Why did you volunteer?
Because I wanted to go into service.
Okay. What's the first big memory you have of being in the Navy? Like,
What's that?
what's the first big memory you have of being in the Navy?
Well, the first big memory was boot camp.
Mm-hmm. How was boot camp?
Well, it was altogether different from anything I'd ever been in before. That you had to wash your own clothes, and,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had to march all day long, and then different things,
Mm-hmm. What did they have you do in boot camp to get you ready for war?
Oh, they do nothing there. They just more or less toughened you up, and taught you how to take orders, and obey an order, whatever
Mm-hmm.
they get when you're superior, they give it to you.
Right.
That's mostly what they did.
So the basic skills.
What's that?
And so the basic skills.
Yeah.
Okay. So from basic, where did you go from there?
Well, I went to boot camp for 8 weeks, and then they assigned me to a ship. There was, I think we had I forget how many we had in boot camp. I think it was 150 some odd. But anyhow, each one got assigned to different ships.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, there wasn't but 2 guys besides myself, the company that I was in, that went on the same ship.
Mm-hmm.
The others went to other ships, and I don't know what ships they went to, but
What ship did you go to?
I went to a submarine tender, the USS Fulton AS-11. It was being built. It wasn't finished yet. It hadn't even been put in commission. And it was in Bear Island, California, where it was being built.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 60 miles out of San Francisco. And there, we took training, how to do different things, how to tie knots and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, and go over the ship and learn different compartments in it and stuff like that. And after that, we put it in commission in September of 1941. Put it in commission. And then from there, we went to sea for several days at different times, stay out maybe 2 or 3 days, come back, and then we went on a shakedown, what they call a shakedown cruise.
Okay.
We went to Panama,
Mm-hmm.
and 3 days out of Panama, that's when December the 7th, 1941 is when they bombed Pearl Harbor.
And so, where were you when Pearl Harbor happened?
I was 3 days out of Panama.
So you're still on the boat?
I was on the ship, yeah.
Okay.
I was on watch. I was on watch up in a crow's nest, what they call a crow's nest. They don't have them now anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
it was up on the mast way up high where you could see. And I had the 8 to 12 watch, And whenever I got relieved to come down, well, one of the guys on the ship told me that they bombed Pearl Harbor this morning.
Mhm.
And that's the first I knew about it.
What was your initial reaction when he told you?
Well, I was just dumbpuzzled, you know. It was such a shock to me.
Right.
And so from there, well, we went on into 3 days. It took us 3 days to get into Panama City. And we were there about a week, I guess. And then we loaded up with 55-gallon barrels of aviation fuel.
Mhm.
We must have had, well, I'd say we had 400 or 500 barrels on there. And we went to Nicaragua
Okay.
and built a CVY base, just some tents and radios and stuff like, you know, for communication. And we had to take a crane and lower those 55-gallon drums of gas into the water.
Mhm.
And then the ship couldn't go in, but well, we was a half a mile out, I guess.
Mhm.
Then you had to swim and take one of them and push it into the shore. Everybody did that.
That's a lot of work.
And yeah, it was a lot of work pushing it in the shore.
Mhm.
Took about, I guess about 4 or 5 days. I forget how long it was to do it, to unload it, get it all unloaded and get through there.
Right.
And then we left there and went back to Panama City and loaded up again.
Mhm.
And went to Ecuador, South America, and did the same thing. And then after that, well, we come back to San Diego and stayed there about 2 days, and then we went to Pearl Harbor.
And then you helped
Yeah,
clean up everything there
yeah,
and get
it
it.
was a mess. All the ships were sunk, and
Right.
we had to help clean up the ships, the ones that they got them raised. They had some of them raised already.
Mhm.
Had to clean them up so they could put them in dry dock and work on them.
Right.
And they had us doing that. I did that for, well, I guess for about a month.
Oh, that's a long time.
And then we was tied up with the submarine base. And one night about, it was about 9:30, because it don't get dark there till about 9:30.
Mhm.
And we was up on the boat deck watching a movie, and the captain come over the PA system and said, make preparations to get on the way in 10 minutes. So we thought we was going to bomb Pearl Harbor again, so we got out of there. In about 10 minutes we were out of there too. And we went to, that was in June, we didn't know where we were going. We left out of that, I guess we got out of there around 10 o'clock. And next morning, we was at sea by ourselves, no ships around or nothing.
Mhm.
And took us about 3 days. Well, the captain told us that if anybody fell over the side, they wouldn't stop and pick them up.
And
Because we was having drills all the time, you know.
okay.
And it was raining one evening about 5 o'clock. It was raining. It was just a sprinkle, you know, and everything was slick. The decks were slick. And this one guy, his battle station, his abandoned ship, we had an abandoned ship drill. And his was up to get up in one of the boats that was hanging over the side.
Right.
And as he was getting in there, he slipped, fell in the water. And I thought to myself, well, they shot some life rafts to him, but the waves were so high you could hardly see him. So the captain stopped the ships, and they lowered the boat and picked him up.
And so you got him back.
Got him back.
Oh, that's good.
And then we went on out to the Midway battle was just before that. We went out and picked up 1,900 and over 1,900 survivors
After the Battle of Midway.
after the Battle of Midway, and brought them in. A lot of them were shot up and tore up with missing limbs and different things.
Right.
And we all give them all of our bunks, and we slept out on the deck in hammocks. And we got into Pearl. They transferred them all to the hospital.
Mhm.
And we were there, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, tending subs, and then they sent us to Midway to tend subs. And it wasn't nothing at Midway. It was all tore up because the Japanese had already invaded it.
Right.
But there wasn't more Japs on it.
Mhm.
But we were there, and they had to put a net around us to keep the submarines from torpedoing us, you know. And we was in, because there wasn't no dock or nothing there. It was just anchored out at the time.
Mhm.
And they put that net around us, keep them. But every night, well, there'd be submarines come up, you see, and fire torpedoes at us, but they couldn't penetrate to the nets.
What was the net made of?
Some kind of steel wire, steel cables, some kind. I don't know just what they were.
So how did you feel? How did it feel knowing that they were sending torpedoes at you?
Do what?
How did it feel? How did you feel knowing that they were sending torpedoes at you?
Well, it's scary. Everybody, you know, was scared because we didn't have no defense.
Mhm.
All we had was 2 5-inch 38 guns. No, we had 4 5-inch 38 guns, and that's all we had.
Mhm.
And it was, you know, it was scary because when you went to bed at night, you didn't know whether you were going to wake up the next morning or not.
Right.
And we stayed there for about 3 months, I guess, tending subs. And then all of a sudden, one day we left there. We didn't know where we was going, and we went to Australia, Brisbane, Australia.
Mhm.
And we tied up Brisbane sets off in the water about like Houston does in Galveston,
Mhm.
off the ocean. And you go up the channel. We went up the channel, and we tied up at the dock. And New Farm Wharf was the name of it.
Okay.
And we stayed there about a year. Stayed there about a year, I guess it was. And the orders come in I was shipfitter second class at the time, and they had 5 or 6 shipfitter second class on the ship. And the order come in for 1 second class and 1 third class. And of course, everybody wanted to go, you know. They all wanted to come back to the States.
Right.
And
So what were you doing in Australia? Were you just
tended subs.
okay?
See, subs would go out on patrol run, and every time they come in, they'd be damaged. Just about, whether there'd be something wrong with them every time they come in, and we'd have to fix it, you know, so they could go back out again.
Okay.
And they stayed out on the patrol run all the way from 30 to 50 days and be gone. And but we was there about a year, and the orders come in for, like I say, a second class and a third class ship fitter. Come back to the States for new construction, and everybody wanted to come back, you know. And so the officer in charge of us told us, well, what we're going to do, we're going to draw cards and see which one goes back. And he got us all in a room, like this here, and had a deck of cards, took a brand new deck of cards and had the jack of spades up there. That's the highest one that could draw before me. And I said, just thought to myself, I said, I'll never beat that. And I reached in and drawed one, and it was Queen of Hearts. So the guy also told me, he said, well, Goedecke, said, you look like you going back to the States. And he said, but I'm going to tell you this. He said, you just took examination for first class and you passed it. And the first of the month you'll be first class. But we can't send you back as first class, we have to send you back as second class. And he said, you still want to go? And I said, yes sir, I still want to go.
So you went back as second class.
And come back to second class. And so we landed in San Francisco, and we stayed there for a week or so. I don't know, time been so long I forgot how long we were there, but it wasn't too long. And I was in 3 different places in San Francisco from receiving station because they couldn't make up their mind where they wanted me to go. So then they transferred me down to San Diego, and they was going to sign me to a ship. And while I was there, well, they signed me to a ship, to Dennis. And they told me before then they sent me to Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay.
And they said, to send you to Houston for a ship. I said, they don't build ships in Houston. He said, yes they do too, they're building them now. So I come back to Houston and called to Dennis. And then on the Dennis, well, we went, it wasn't in commission yet either, it was being outfitted. So I learned all about it, you know, because I was ship fitter on it, lead ship fitter. And so after that, well, we went to sea 4 or 5 times, maybe for 2 or 3 days at a time, and come back in. And then we went on a shakedown cruise to Bermuda. We went to Bermuda, and then we was in Bermuda for about 4 days, and then we went to Boston, to Navy Shipyard in Boston to get it refitted and fix everything that was wrong with the ship. And we were in Boston, I guess, about 2 weeks. And then we went back to San Diego and spent 1 night there. Then we went back to Pearl Harbor. And of course we was in Pearl Harbor, I guess, making runs out of that different times. We was there for about a month, and then we went to an invasion of, I forget the name of that island now. Anyhow, one of them small islands over there. And we was doing escort duty. We had 6 carriers and 7 escorts. And one day at noon, well, the admiral told us that we could change positions to where we was at. Move from the east side to the west side. So we moved, and the other ship moved over there where we was at. And that night, about 12 o'clock, well, it got sunk. The ship, if we'd have been over there, we'd have got sunk. And it lost, I don't forgot how many men that was lost, but it's quite a few men that was lost on it. And we stayed there, 3 or 4 weeks. And then we went to another little island over there, Manus Island, I believe it was. Stayed in there a couple of weeks, taking on supplies and different things. And then we went to the invasion of Leyte Gulf. 15 ships in our task force. We had 7 escorts and 6 carriers. And every morning, we got there about 5 days before the invasion. And every morning, they'd send in planes to bomb the island. And then, same thing in the evening, they'd bomb the island.
Mhm.
So, we had been there, I think, 8 days. And one night about 12 o'clock, well, they picked up unidentified ships 25 miles to our rear. And they called General MacArthur. He was in charge of us, of our task force, to protect him.
Uh-huh.
And they asked him if he permission to send a couple of planes back to identify those ships. And he said, don't worry about them ships. That's Admiral Halsey. He said, don't worry about them. Said, you send them planes in as scheduled in the morning.
Mhm.
So we did. So we sent all the planes. We launched all of them before daylight. About 5:30 in the morning we launched.
Mhm.
And they was all gone. And of course we secured from general quarters and just sat down to eat breakfast. And the day before that we went beside the carrier and got refueled. And every time you get refueled, they either give you some ice cream or eggs. And
That's pretty
they
cool.
give us a couple of cases of eggs. And the next morning, well, we had eggs, sunny side up eggs.
Mhm.
And I had just got mine and walked to the table and was going to sit it down, and general quarters rang. And I had to sit it down. I set it down on the table and run to my battle station. And my battle station was damage control. I was in charge of damage control back aft. That's if in case the ship catch fire, gets hit, catch fire, you got to put fire out. It gets hit, you got to try to keep it from sinking. And so after that, well, the next morning, well, general quarters went off just as I was putting my tray down, and I had to go back on top side to close all the hatches and dog them down at the back of the, aft of the ship.
Mhm.
And I looked up and I saw, I don't know how many, it looked like 15 masts of enemy ships, and they was firing on us. And I was standing next to a lifeline there, and 3 shells hit right beside me, hit the water.
Mhm.
And so I had to stay there until everybody got to the battle station so I could dog the hatches down. And when I went down below where I was supposed to be, well, I asked the boy on the phone, I said, what are we being attacked by? And phones was busy, there was a lot of static going on. And he said, we're being attacked by the Japanese task force. And I said, oh no, that can't be right. I said, we're not being attacked by the Japanese. He said, yes, we are too. I said, well, let me have the phones. So I got the phones and I called the bridge and asked them, what we're being attacked by. And they said, the Japanese task force says, get ready to take a swim in about 15 minutes.
Wow.
And of course I was scared, because they was going to see, they could have sunk us. They sunk 5 of our ships in a 3 hours time. And damaged all of them was damaged except one.
Mhm.
And we lost 800 men.
Wow.
800 men. And we were in that battle, well, all day long. It was 7:30 to about 5 o'clock in the afternoon time, because we picked up slept. They just left us there. We was out there by ourselves. We picked them up and took them on into, I forget the name of the island. It took about 3 days to get there though. And took them in the island and left them there and patched the holes that we could patch. And well, one of them was below the water line, and we had pumps going in there trying to keep the water out, but we couldn't, it wouldn't pump it out fast as it's coming in. So they had a bucket brigade too, and there was pumps going, but the pumps couldn't keep up with it because it was hitting a dry storage room where they had boxes of canned goods and pasteboard boxes, you know, big boxes. And those boxes just disintegrated. And they stopped up the strainers, the pasteboard to stop up the strainers on the pumps. And we had water about this deep.
Oh, wow.
And also asked me, he said, well, what are we going to do about that? And I said, well, one thing to do, sir. And I said, somebody's got to go down there and dive down and keep that pasteboard down. He said, well, who should we send? Because he had never been to sea before. And I said, well, I'll go. And another guy said, I'll go. And another said, I'll go. So we went down and had to dive down, get the pasteboard up, and throw it back up on the deck. On the next deck. And we did that for about, I guess a good hour and a half. It was long enough because I was give out. I was just tired, you know.
Right.
And so we got it where it would keep the pumps would keep up, and it was sure took some mattresses, had some mattresses insured to put over the hole and shored it up. Water still come in, but we could keep it out, pump it out as fast as it come in. And first lieutenant told me, he said, go up on deck and get you some fresh air. So I went up on deck and was standing up on the forecastle. I heard a plane coming, and I was looking, but I saw it was a suicide plane. First suicide plane ever hit a Navy ship. And it hit the St. Low and sunk it. Within 45 minutes, it was at the bottom of the ocean.
It was a Japanese. So
it was one American ship, but the Japanese sunk it.
So it was a kamikaze?
Kamikaze plane.
Wow.
And we had to picked up 434 survivors off of that. Harriman picked up 100 something. The rest of them got killed. And the men was sliding off that deck. It was bad to see. They were dead. Some of them were dead. Some of them weren't wounded. And we picked them up, and then we went into another one of the islands. I forget the name of it. It's been so long. Took about 2.5 days to get there. I do know that. And unloaded all the survivors to hospital ships and different ships they went on, you know, that had hospitals. And then we come back into Manus and stayed there about 2 weeks. Maybe a little longer than that. And then I visited again, and then we went to Iwo Jima, invasion of Iwo Jima. We got there 2 days before the invasion. And when the invasion went on, there was so many men, there was thousands of men laying in the water dead. They blow them landing craft out of the water before they ever hit the beach. And it was a terrible thing, and some of them laid there for 3 or 4 days because they couldn't pick them up.
Right.
They couldn't get them picked up. And so finally they got the island secured enough where they could get in there and pick them up. And what they did with them at the time, I guess they buried them. Of course, I know they buried them at sea, but not then. They didn't. So they took a lot said, they're raising the flag on Iwo Jima. And I said, they are? And he said, yes, said, take the glasses and look, you can see real well. And I did, you could see them when they raised the flag. I saw when they raised the flag.
That's so cool. I just got chills.
Huh?
I just got chills. That's really, really cool.
And then we was there till the invasion was over. I guess we was there like 15, 20 days altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And we come back to Manus Island and stayed there for about a month, I guess, and then loaded up for Okinawa. Invasion of Okinawa. That was a bad invasion, real bad.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in, we got in there the same day the invasion was on. And there was Marines all in the water and everything, and there was suicide planes. Well, we stayed there near the island there for about 2 days, and then they put us out on picket duty. Picket duty is like a watch, you know. You got 3 circles of like the battle is, I mean, the island is here when you got a circle, inner circle, another circle, and another one.
Okay.
And we was on the outer circle. That's the most dangerous circle. They were sinking 2 to 5 ships a day out there. But we never did get struck, but we had several ships to dive on us, you know, and shot them down before they hit us.
Okay.
But and after that, well, we was getting ready to go into Japan. And in fact, in 30 days, we was going to invade Japan. We was getting ready to invade Japan. And then word come out on the ship that the war wasn't going to last much longer because the United States had a new bomb. And I said, well, what kind of bomb is it? They said, I don't know, but it's the most powerful bomb ever made. And he said, they're getting ready to drop it on Japan as soon as they get, you know, figure out a way to get it over there. So, of course, about 2 weeks later, well, they dropped the bomb. And after that, that was all over. Then in a couple of days later, they dropped another one. Well, then the war ended then. And we stayed out there about 2 weeks, I guess. We'd been out to sea so long. We'd been out there longer than any other ships. And they sent us back to the States. And we pulled into San Diego, and the band met us and stuff. And then they sent us down to the repair base and tied up there for a while. And then we started putting the ships out of commission because the war was over with. And started putting them all out of commission, and that was about a year and a half. That's what I did at the end of the war. After the war was over, put ships out of commission.
So you did that for a year and a half?
About a year and a half, yeah. Put 4 ships out of commission. And then it was time for me to re-enlist. My time was up. I'd been in 6 years. And they come to me and asked me if I wanted to re-enlist. And I said, no, I wanted to go home. So a few days later, they sent me home. They didn't give me nothing, no money, nothing. Just told me that was it. So I had enough money to catch a train. It didn't cost much. I don't know, it was less than $100 from San Diego to Houston. On a train. It'd take about 3 or 4 days to get there though. But I had enough money to get the train and I come back. But I had 3 months leave coming, so I got out before I was supposed to, because they won't pay you that leave, you know, unless you take it. So I had to take that leave before I was discharged. And I was discharged. They mailed my discharge papers to me. And that was about it.
Wow. That's a lot. I don't wanna know how you did it. Honestly.
Well, it wasn't easy. War is hell, I'll tell you, but there's a lot of my heroes are left over there.
They were.
I had some of my best friends killed.
Well, honestly, if it wasn't for what y'all had done, you know, we
Yeah,
would not be here today.
that's right. It's bad. I had one of my best friends I ever had get killed.
Do you mind talking about that?
I'd rather not.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about it. Well, when we got hit, well, they called me up forward because we got hit below the water line and wanted me to come up there and bring a man with me. So I went up there and I was going up there. I went through the machine shop and my friend was laying there on the deck without a shirt on. His name's Davis. His last name was Davis. Everybody went by the last name and you go by the first name. And I asked him, I said, Davis, what's the matter? And he says, well, Forrest's mate, his name was Parsley. He said, Parsley was just by here. He said, it wasn't nothing, just a little scratch on my back. He said, told me to lay here a little while and I'd be all right. And I said, do you mind me looking at it? He said, no. So he turned over his back, right in the middle of his back there to one side. And his little scratch, it was as long as my fingernail, just a little bitty old scratch. And I told him, well, he was white as a sheet. And I told him, I said, well, is there anything I can do for you? And he said, no, not a thing. I said, well, I'd stay here with you, but I can't. I got to go get forward. And he said, I'll be all right.
We don't have to talk about it.
Somebody come and told me that he had died. Then the next day, well, we buried him at sea, the ones that got killed. And we picked up those men, those 434 men. Well, sharks, there's a lot of sharks out there. We just pulled one out of the water. The shark bit his leg off right there.
Wow.
And another man, he got a shell hit him right here. He had that whole nothing there. He died. He didn't live 10 minutes. So it was bad.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get over that. Forget it.
Yeah, going through that much, I bet it is hard to forget.
Huh?
Like going through that much.
Yeah, it's hard to forget. At least it is for me.
Right.
That's about all of it, I guess. That's the most important part. A lot of other stuff went on too, but they were not that important.
Well, how do you think you would be different if you hadn't?
Huh?
How do you think you as a person would be different if you hadn't have been in the war?
I don't know.
You don't?
I really don't know.
How old were you when?
I was 22 whenever I enlisted. And I was 27 when I got out.
Okay. Well, I don't think I have any more questions for you.
Okay, I will have to.
Oh, yes, you did. If I have more questions, can I come back
Yeah.
and interview again?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's some more questions. If I can remember the answers.
Okay. That was really cool. Thank you for talking to me.
Well, glad I could.
That's very cool.